We'll go ahead and call our mid-month meeting of the Allegheny County Board of Commissioners to order. At this time, I ask all of you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's have a moment, remain standing for a moment of silence, please. Got a couple of changes on the agenda. Daniel Roten be the first one, and Laurel Springs Fire Department. That's the only two, correct?
Mr. Chairman, I request that we move Mr. Barquette's presentation to after public comments. Mr. Barquette was notified en route that his father is in the emergency room of Watauga County. This will enable him to reach his side quicker.
Got three changes. Any objections there? Do I hear a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor? 3-0. Okay, motion on minutes for 11-1 work session, 11-1, 11-10, 11-15, and 12-6. Trust everybody's looked over that. Do I hear a motion?
On the November the 15th agenda, or excuse me, the minutes for November the 15th. On page 10, it says Allegheny attorney Heather Klein agreed with Steve Mason's interpretation of the qualifications for members of the TDA, citing members can serve dual roles. I believe that could is the operative word. And since we have a ruling from the School of Government supporting my contention, I would like that changed to could, sir.
Okay. Any objections? All right. Do I hear a motion to accept?
What page of the board
So moved.
packet is that on, John?
Sorry?
What page of the board packet is that on?
I believe it's page 10. It's page 4 of the minutes, page 10 of our agenda.
We've got a motion. Did we get a second?
Second.
All in favor? 3-0. Next will be our public comment. Citizens are encouraged to comment at this time on any item requiring the attention of the commissioners. Feel free to come forward. Being no movement, we'll close the public comment time and move down to Mr. Barquette.
Good morning,
Morning.
residents of Allegheny County. I'm here in taking Ann Singer's position. She was unable to be here today. The owners of the clubhouse at River Country Estates in Piney Creek. The last time we met, we were asking for a waiver due to the extreme cost of removing the fire debris from the clubhouse structure, which was a complete loss. In the last visit, Mr. Carter asked us to do a couple better figurations of numbers and so forth, calculations, and Mr. Osborne asked about our insurance policy. And the answers to that are the insurance policy will pay $57,250 for the total removal of all the debris, which is short by 3 times. It'll be threefold that amount. I just wanted to give you an update on that. The estimate of the waiver that we're asking the county to provide to the owners of the clubhouse is for 150 tons of debris from the fire that will need to be removed. The actual tonnage is going to be much more than that, but we're asking for relief up to 100, maximum up to 150 tons of debris. And that's pretty much my presentation, and I believe that in the last meeting, a decision was going to be made one way or the other. And I wanted to explain my position is I'm just a consultant to the owners of the clubhouse. I have no monetary motive, one way or the other.
I got one question. Is the clubhouse going to be built back?
Yes, sir.
Going to be put back?
Yes, sir.
To the same?
It'll be probably better designed. That's what they've been telling me. It'll definitely have fire suppression systems, which the one that I built back in, that I owned back in 2006 did not have. I think you'll see more concrete instead of wood. I think if you see the pictures, I gave Mr. Mr. Carter, some pictures of what the clubhouse used to look, so you have an idea of the enormity of the challenge that we have in front of us. We've had engineers come from out of state and from in-state to determine the extent of the removal process. Right now, the preliminary engineering reports is that the main floor of the concrete, which is 18 inches deep with steel beams, has to be removed, that's been compromised. The final report won't be available until we remove everything that's on top of that. And for that to be done, we cannot use heavy equipment due to the safety. They don't believe that a Caterpillar or even a skid steer they're concerned of any weight like that. So we'll most likely have to get some sort of crane system to hover over and grapple hook the debris and throw it down to the different vehicles. We will separate, obviously, metals that can be recycled. There's a lot of concrete. If that floor comes out, and speaking with David from the solid waste department, of how do we separate the rebar from the concrete, to make sure that whatever the county receives is acceptable.
Anybody have any other questions? It's
Other than the county manager's recommendation.
We had the opportunity to speak just prior to the meeting, and keep in mind, this impacts your Fund 73, which is your transfer facility fund. 150 tons, that's $11,250 worth of forgiveness that you're basically applying. Since I've been here, I haven't seen a magnitude of that amount that has been forgiven. Doesn't mean it can't, just means that I haven't seen it. I think, as was indicated, these are best guesses.
That's correct.
On the amounts. I sat here just moments ago doing breakdowns, and if you look at 100 tons as an example, that's $7,500. So keep that in mind as your increments that go into that. In our brief conversation, not that I'm not willing or wanting to do any of it, but I think that as a starting component is how I would phrase it. I would recommend that you, if you consider this at all, I would recommend you start with 100 tons, because that material could or could not equal to.
That's correct. That's correct.
And that way, there's a cap to it, there's a thought to it, and go from there.
Here, I have a question. Now, you've said that a large amount of the weight is going to be concrete with rebar.
That's correct.
That does not go into the tipping, does it?
It is completely as described. If it's brought in its described state, that the concrete will go in the beneficial fill area.
So that reduces the weight that would be going into the landfill.
I don't know what percentage, and you could probably expand on that.
This 100 tons would have nothing to do with the concrete. or with the metal that can be recycled. This would be debris that cannot be recycled. For example, drywall, wiring that's beyond, that's coiled in the, plastic, which there's a lot of plastic in buildings and so forth. And those are our best guess, and I feel very comfortable with what Mr. Carter just recommended. I was asked to give a broader idea, and from my experience with cleaning up the RV park called River Camp USA, where we took out 113 tons of debris that we paid for, it kind of gave me a better idea of what I'm going to go through here and recommending to the owners of the clubhouse, and number one, who to hire for this, and number two, how to do it safely and under state and local policies.
Chairman, I would add this. I am uncertain if this board has ever granted the ability to waive tipping fees for similar occurrences in the past.
Mr. Chairman, I would remind the board that in January, I believe, 2017, we had a fire in a building across from the Wilkes Community College, and we did waive half of those fees, which was $5,800. If a figure comes to my mind, they requested a waiver of half of those fees, and we did approve that. So we do have a history of doing it.
If that is what has been done, and we have an estimate of 150, again, these are estimates. If you look at 75, you're looking at that number up, but it's $5,625, and that would fall at least in line with the initial that Commissioner Irwin just described of half of the estimated tonnage to be received.
Marquette, do you feel that that would be fair?
I believe anything the county would do would be very helpful.
Very well.
Very helpful.
Very well
yes,
put.
Because I understand, guys, this is public money. It's not private money, and I understand you have to be very cautious with your expenditures, and I definitely would hope that the future, once the clubhouse is rebuilt, the property taxes and so forth that they pay will help reimburse many times over the county for the help they're giving those homeowners. And that would be my response to that.
A motion to waive up to 75 tons.
I had the same 75 tons on my mind too. And yeah, we got a motion for 75 tons to be waived. Motion is second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor? 3-0.
Travel safely, and
Thank you.
our prayers
I
are
want
with
to
you.
thank you for passing me everybody in front, and I'm sorry for the emergency I had with my father. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Happy holidays. Thank you. Thank you.
Your father does well. Again, Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Lisa Bottomley.
Realize public comments.
Stood up.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well. I haven't had my coffee yet, so let's just hope I get through this okay. Thank you so much for having me here today and letting me give you some updates. For sure, it has been a very busy year for the Allegheny Chamber for Economic Development. Also, previously, the Allegheny Chamber of Commerce. We've experienced quite a bit of change over the past year. But we do feel that this has been very positive for us as an organization, but more importantly, for Allegheny County. With that said, I do want to start by clarifying some of these changes. On February 15th, at a regular meeting of the Allegheny County Commissioners, Ricky Brown, Zach Barraclough, and then I and Brian Edwards were also present, presented to you the the structure of our new organization, how we are going to be a 501c6 and a 501c3. You have a copy of that slide that was presented here at the meeting. It's in the front of your packet. Looks like this, if everyone's wondering. And just to clarify, we have not been absolved into a 501c3 organization. It has not been absolved at all. If anything, we're doing more now than we ever have. So just to review some of the changes, Allegheny Chamber of Commerce, we kept our 501c6. We kept our tax ID number is still the same. We were renamed to the Allegheny Chamber for Economic Development. Our purpose would remain the same with the addition of economic development activities. Employees, all staff, structure will remain as initially proposed, and we are still a member organization. The Sparta Revitalization Committee kept their 501c3 status. Also, their tax ID number stays the same. They have been renamed to Allegheny Economic Development Alliance. They will fund and support economic development activities through fundraising investor model. There are no employees of this 501c3, and they will reimburse Chamber for any activities specific to economic development. As I said, we've not been absolved at all. If anything, we are doing more. We still do our Chamber member services. We do county marketing, Chamber Informer, SRC events. So when we merged with the SRC, we took on everything that they had been doing, town beautification, community development, and you'll see more and more about economic development as we go. Are there any questions about that slide or that information? Oh, okay, great. All right, next page, just some activity highlights of the Allegheny Chamber for Economic Development in 2021. I won't go over all of them. Again, it's just highlights. As you see, January through May, we do a lot in preparation for our busy year. We also create and edit our Allegheny magazine and distribute those. Over 8,000 have been distributed in 2021. Those go to regional visitor centers all across North Carolina, some in Virginia, South Carolina, and also to our surrounding counties. We also give those out, of course, in our visitor center. January through May, we begin adding events to our event calendar as we are notified of those. In 2021, we had a lot of events who kind of waited to inform us because of COVID and different reasons. We promote shopping local, highlighting opportunities for certain holidays, beginning running ads for Visit Allegheny, come and see our outdoors, our recreation. In 2021, we did take on Music on Main, so we began our committee meetings, began booking bands, securing sponsors. We began securing sponsors for our Mountain Heritage Festival, and we also invited the Midnight Runners Cruise-Ins to Sparta. They actually were in Sparta from May until October. In June, again, we prepare for Music on Main. We begin marketing Summer in Allegheny, the Blue Ridge Parkway, outdoors. July, Music on Main. Our first one was very successful. We had 800 plus people. It was a great event. A lot of people from within Allegheny County and from outside of Allegheny County. We also held our 4th of July parade. In August, we had a Music on Main that drew over 700 people. In September, again, another Music on Main, a little bit lower this time, but with 500 plus people, but they were a smaller known band. We had our Mountain Heritage Festival. Even though COVID affected that event, we had some vendors pull out at the last minute due to COVID, or just because they didn't want to be around that many people. We still had over 2,000 to 2,500 people visit Allegheny County that day from within Allegheny and from outside of Allegheny. We also attended Merle Fest for 4 days and had an authentically Allegheny booth to market Allegheny County as a destination and as a place to visit. October, for Music Off, we had a Music Off Main. Our headliner band had to cancel due to COVID, but we still had a local band play, and we were able to draw around 300 people. The Chamber of Economic Development worked directly with Cycle NC event that came to town in October. There were close to 800 riders, and the Chamber worked the event Friday through Sunday. We secured volunteers, catering, and assisted with logistics, and we were the main liaison to Cycle NC, the school, volunteers, and law enforcement. We attended Carolina Classic Fair booth to help with the Allegheny tree farmers and gave out Allegheny magazines. We held a very successful trunk and treat this year. Brian Maines, the sheriff of Allegheny County, and his wife Beth, they always count the number of people that come through and see them, and they calculated over 1,500 people came through the trunk or treat. And I want to thank the county commissioners for having a trunk that day, very successful. And in October, we were able to have ads and articles in our state magazine. There were actually several pages dedicated to Allegheny County, to some of our businesses, to our artists, and to the Bluffs restaurant. So we were highlighted in such a beautiful and positive manner. It was really great to see the attention given to Allegheny County. In November, December, we helped coordinate the courthouse Christmas tree, decorating, town greenery, Christmas parade. We marketed the Choose and Cut, even though it was very limited this year, and our farmers did ask us not to go overboard with marketing because they were so limited on trees. We marketed Small Business Saturday and Marketing Shop Local for the holidays. Now, these are just events that the Chamber is responsible for. We are also responsible for marketing all events in Allegheny if we are informed of the events. We were able to market the events at the fairgrounds like the Derby, Fiberfest, Mudsling, and the Agricultural Fair. I even provided contact information for the Agricultural Fair Committee on ways to market that event. We also were able to promote the Pumpkin Fest for Sparta Lights and Entertainment, and also their lights here and within town. And we also promoted Arts Council events and other nonprofit events throughout the year. And we do that through our website calendar, through our briefing, and through social media. All right, if you'll turn the page, we also have a kind of a monetary marketing update really quickly for you. This just shows a list of, and this is not, this is as inclusive, pretty inclusive as everything that we have done as far as expenses goes. This does not include any expenses that the TDA covered in that, and I'll mention that in just a few moments. So this just gives you a list, kind of a breakdown of our expenses as far as marketing goes. It also gives you a breakdown of percentage of salaries that are used for marketing, and the total would be $91,774. TDA annual occupancy tax for 2021 is budgeted $20,725. We did receive TDA grants in 2021. First quarter for 2021-22 fiscal year was $5,000, and that was from Music on Main. Second quarter, we received $12,000 for Mountain Heritage Festival, Our State Magazine, Allegheny Magazine, and the Blue Ridge Parkway Travel Planner. The total TDA was $37,725. On the next page, you will see a breakdown of our TDA requests and grant awards. Please let me note that we have to apply for those grants, and we also have to report on those grants in the same manner as any other organization applying for grant monies from the TDA. We do not get any type of special treatment or any type of special exceptions. As you can see, Music on Main, our total marketing expenses were over $6,000, and the TDA grant awarded was $5,000. So our responsibility was $1,033. Profit made, overall profit, once we looked at our income and our expenses, was negative $250 for that event. Mountain Heritage Festival, total marketing expenses were $3,277. The TDA did grant us $3,000, which left us $277 for marketing only. We do make a profit off of Mountain Heritage Festival with sponsorships and vendor income of $6,988. Allegheny County Magazine, our total expenses for that marketing magazine, and that magazine is dedicated to the marketing of Allegheny County only, and to and then our chamber members also are able to list in there and buy ads, but anyone can buy ads from Allegheny County. They don't have to be a chamber member. Total expenses for that were $6,707. TDA grant awarded was $3,000, which left $3,707 for marketing expenses around the magazine. We do, I said, make a profit off of ads, and we made a profit of $13,827 off of the county magazine. Our state magazine ad, which was in the special mountain edition for 2021, the total cost of that was $3,000. TDA grant awarded was $3,000. Blue Ridge Parkway Travel Planner, the total expense was $3,250, and the TDA grant awarded was $3,000, which left us $250. So again, I have to present these to the TDA. I did so to the full board, and these grants were approved unanimously with all boards present at the time. And the last and final page, sorry to take so long, I just wanted to let you know that some of the things that the Allegheny Chamber for Economic Development is involved. Mr. Carter, you mentioned a while back how important community development is to you, and it's important to all of us. And it's especially important to me as a community leader. It's important to Brian that we are involved, not just to say that we are on a board, but to be actively involved in these boards and these committees and these advisory, in this advisory manner, to be active and to be actually doing something in our community. So you have a list on the last page. Just to highlight a few of those, we participate in the Allegheny Wellness Coalition, High School CTE, Leadership Allegheny, Wilkes Community College Advisory Committee, the After School Program, Blue Ridge Electric Community Leadership, Creative Placemaking, Allegheny Extension Advisory Board is not listed there, but that is one of them. And as far as marketing and tourism related boards, I am on the Blue Ridge Parkway Association Board, High Country Host Board, Allegheny Fairgrounds Advisory Board. And just let me say that we have a great relationship with Cole Edwards and those members, and have worked very hard to market those events at the fairgrounds that we had in 2021. And I also attend the TDA board monthly. Any questions about any of that? I know it's a lot of information, but I did want to wrap up the year with you having that before you.
Questions, comments?
I have a number, Mr. Chairman. In your June, well, let's go May, June, did you include any advertisement for the mudsling put on by Mr. Brown?
Sure did. And we also arranged for his banner to be hung across Main Street. And we were not informed about that with a whole lot of notice. But once we were informed, yes, we did.
Mr. Brown was basically doing it on his own.
Yeah, he was.
By doing that, he sold 1,500 tickets, and he only sold tickets to age 13 and above. Now, that is double the Music on Main. Down on October, Cycle, North Carolina. At that time, Charlie Scott was responsible to the TDA to get metrics. We're showing on Cycle, North Carolina, and this is actual interviews conducted by high school students with attendees. 60% of the people surveyed are from North Carolina, Winston-Salem, Durham, Wake, Jacksonville, Boone.
Yes, sir.
That's right. Now, 30% heard about the event online, 50% knew from emails from Cycle, North Carolina, and 20% were told by friends. What advertising did you do?
We don't do marketing for Cycle NC. We support the event once it gets to town.
Why was it placed in there?
Because it's an event that we help support and sponsor for them when they come here. We, again, Cycle NC, the Chamber worked the event Friday through Sunday. We also had I should have written this on here, we had a welcome booth for all the members, all the riders. We were there for 2 days for several hours. We also secured volunteers, over 30 volunteers for that event. We also connected Cycle NC with caterers for their riders, and we assisted with logistics, and we again were the liaison to Cycle NC, the school, volunteers, and law enforcement. So we were present at Cycle NC to market Allegheny County.
You were there to assist in the event. That
And
is a
to
big
market
difference
Allegheny
from the
County.
marketing.
Actually, no, sir. We were there. We had a booth. We had volunteers who manned that booth. We were there to answer questions to all the riders about what was going on in town that night, in the county as a whole, the agricultural fair. We were also there to give out Allegheny County magazines. We also marketed any other bike riding events, like for the Wellness Center while we were there. So I do feel like we reached almost I guarantee we reached 80% of those riders with information about Allegheny County.
That is for the event.
That is,
Pre-event, you were evidently not involved in the pre-event marketing. And
it is
we're
a private
splitting
event.
hairs.
It's a private event that Cycle NC markets themselves. The riders have to pay a registration fee. It is not a county marketing event, but we were there to market to the riders once they arrived. Again, they were from all over North Carolina, even some out of state. So they were able to get the information and will probably return to Allegheny County to visit at some point.
Your charter is to develop tourism, correct?
Yes, sir.
How many events did you sponsor at the fairgrounds this year?
I sponsor in 2021, none. No, we did market them. We marketed the Derby once we knew about it. We marketed Fiberfest, Mudsling, and the Agricultural Fair.
Once you knew about it, so apparently you're not well-known in the community.
No, we are
How
well
many-
known in the
how
community.
many-
Unfortunately, a
how
lot of
many
people don't get us the
websites-
information in
Let
time.
her finish her answer here.
We are well known in the community, and actually, we've done a lot to become a very reputable organization in this community. We work very hard to make sure that things are brought to this community, that we are marketing the local events. To say that we are not well known, I think, is a false statement. I do believe that a lot of people don't market their events because they're busy planning them. Once we do find out about an event, or once we're informed, we start. Actually, we were never informed about the Derby. We actually took it upon ourselves to market that. Fiberfest, we have a great working relationship with that group. Mudsling, he came to us, we hung the banner, and we marketed his event. And the Agricultural Fair, I found out when you all found out about that. I sent the Agricultural Fair Committee information on how to market the fair with radio, with newspaper, and other options. I don't know if they took me up on that, but we marketed it as a Chamber of Commerce for that weekend. So while no, we didn't have any events there, we did market the ones that were held at the fairgrounds, and we will continue to do so.
How much advertising have you done for the campsites on the fairgrounds?
We haven't done any. We've not been given that information. We market for the campsites at the fairgrounds.
Surprised. There was supposed to be a fairgrounds committee that included the Fairgrounds Committee, Chamber of Commerce, and Parks and Recreation that was formed on August the 8th, that you would come together with a memorandum of understanding on how we would operate the fairgrounds. So apparently we haven't had that meeting. I also noted a discrepancy with your total annual one-third occupancy. According to the statute that was established in 2011, once a TDA was established, you would have to request funds from a TDA, but you were not guaranteed a third. This indicates that you feel that you were guaranteed a third of the occupancy tax funds. Is that an assumption that you are making?
I'm not making any assumptions. That's a number I received from April Ham of your finance office at Allegheny County, that was the budgeted amount for 2021.
Budgeted amount.
Correct, April?
I also note that there's a discrepancy between the salaries and the proposed budget that you gave the TDA, amended or updated on July the 10th of 2021. Is this a partial, is your financial year different from the calendar year, or is there?
No, if you'll look, it says the 3 employees that have regular pay related to marketing Allegheny County and tourism. So that would be myself, that would be Casey McGill, and that would be our Visitor Center coordinator, Beth. So we are the 3 that are directly related to tourism. And that is why I only put us 3, and I put a certain percentage that we spend on marketing Allegheny County and tourism. And that's where the total $67,400 comes in. It does not include all of our salaries. It's only salaries related to marketing Allegheny County and tourism.
So you're breaking it down because you have two different organizations. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Thank you for your input.
Sure.
Lisa, I want to thank you all very much for all that you've done. I've been to almost all of these events this year. And you and your breaking your backs and working hard, and thanks to all the volunteers also.
Thank you, Michelle.
I agree with that. She had to wear a pair of her shoes out this year, walking up and down the street down there.
Especially on trunk or treat.
All been very busy.
Yeah,
Appreciate
trick or
it.
treat was, something else. But, and let me just end by saying that, Chamber for Economic Development, Chamber of Commerce, what we used to be, and our staff, our only motive and agenda is to do right by the county and to do things for the people of this community. And for anyone to think otherwise, I think that's a shame. And all you have to do is look at the work we've done over 2021 and what we plan on doing in the years to come. And we are dedicated to the people of this community, and we are dedicated to events and marketing that will help boost our economy. And to think otherwise, I think, is shameful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up's COVID-19 update. Ms. Jennifer Green, Health Department.
Morning.
Morning.
I'll start by saying thanks, Drew, for driving my slides today. Appreciate that. And thank you all for inviting me back. I'll wish you a Merry Christmas before I forget. I've got some COVID updates for you, and you can go on into the next slide, Drew. I'll try to be brief. I want to just start by saying, I think I've said this before, but I know everyone has got pandemic fatigue. We are all ready to move past all of this. So I'm going to try to keep my comments focused on what we can do. But this is a breakdown. If you aren't aware, we issue a report every week, and it's intended to give a snapshot in time of how we're doing with COVID. This is a breakdown of cases by week, and it's intended to help us try to understand with a graph, where are we seeing spread? And this is broken down by ages. So if you look at this, what you can see is we went for a little while with slower transmission, and of course we've crept up pretty dramatically in November, and then we've stayed there. I don't think this is a big surprise. It is colder months. We can expect respiratory viruses to spread easier. Not to belabor the point, but we do have a lot of flu type A specifically circulating in North Carolina right now. So the takeaway from this picture really is that we've got all age groups impacted, and so we'll get more into that as I go. But that's the big takeaway. There's not one group that's really driving this. You can see we've got children. School-age children. We also have adults of all ages, unfortunately. So if you go to the next slide, this is our positivity rate. The blue bars are the tests that are conducted, and the red line is a positivity rate. Obviously, it's much higher than we want it to be. I will just say, though, a word of caution, and that is that we are glad to have at-home testing available on the market now, where you can go to the pharmacy, you can pick up a home test, you can test yourself. That's not captured in any of this. So there could potentially be some negative tests that would influence this. But in general, again, it's higher than we want it to be. I think, again, this is another point that, it's winter time. We can expect the virus like this to go up a little bit. But I do think, the big thing is that we do have some tools to address COVID. So if you go to the next slide, Drew, this is another reason why we pay attention to cases. Obviously, cases are part of it. We hope people have mild illnesses, but part of the reason we have concern is because in the past, we've gone through really what is about 9-week cycles where we go up, then we go down, then we go up, and then we go down. Every time we've gone up, the cases are our first indicator. We see more cases go up, and what follows typically has been more severe illness and more impact to hospitals. And the reason that matters is not just because of COVID, but obviously when all the hospitals around have a higher demand, there's less healthcare resources for all the other needs that might be addressed at a hospital. So our hospital is working very hard, and I have been very pleased to have good communication with them. So I know they're doing their best, but this is across the region we've seen an uptick. So it's another word of caution, I think. Okay, if you go to the next slide. This is a graph to show you just sort of a picture of where we are with vaccines. We are still promoting vaccines as really the top way to help prevent severe illness, hospitalization, and death. Allegheny County has continued to creep up. We've had more people get vaccinated. We have room to grow, particularly in our children. I would say, the state rate is about 45% for 12 to 17-year-olds. And we're not doing too bad with 5 to 11, but we have room to grow there too. The more people that get vaccinated, the more protection we have against severe hospitalization and death. And that's really the main takeaway here. I'm pleased to see that we've had more increases since I've talked to you last time. But we're just encouraging people to continue to get vaccinated. You probably heard the CDC make an announcement last week about a little bit of a preference for the mRNA vaccine over Johnson & Johnson. I think some of that is in relation to some of the data that's been collected over time. They haven't, pulled any approvals. FDA is still approving Johnson & Johnson. We know many people who have gotten that and have done just fine, but I think many are choosing to get a booster with an mRNA vaccine because the data is showing more protection. So I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but the main thing is we do have vaccines available, and we hope people will continue to think about getting vaccinated if they haven't been. Okay, if you go to the next slide. This is another sort of story of the data, which is another picture of our cases. But it's looking at it, the red bar is the cases that were not fully vaccinated or had no vaccination record. And the blue is people who have had a breakthrough case, they've been fully vaccinated. So we do expect to have breakthrough cases. I just want to say that happens even with people who get measles, mumps, and rubella. Sometimes we have breakthrough cases. That can happen. The big part that we want to emphasize is that with vaccination, that's where we see easier recovery. We see people who do better, they have milder symptoms, or if they are hospitalized, they're able to recover much easier. So this is just sort of to tell you the majority of the cases that we're seeing are people who are not vaccinated. And it's not because I'm sure people have their reasons, but the main point here is that there is a real risk not being vaccinated. Okay, if you go to the next slide. This is another way to look at the data, and this is across our whole district. So I've been showing you Allegheny specific numbers, but this one is across all 3 of our counties. The top graph will show you the red bars really is people who have not been fully vaccinated at time of death, and the green lines, the dotted lines, the first one will show you really when vaccines became available to limited groups. And if you remember, this time last year, we were getting ready to gear up, and I think we gave our first doses December 22nd and 23rd. We've come a long way in the last year, but we've seen a lot of change. So the second green line is really when what we would consider vaccines became really broadly available for everyone. So you can see the deaths dropped, but if you look at the lower graph, the big striking point in my opinion, is on the left side, before vaccines were widely available, we saw a lot of older adults actually succumb to the illness and pass away, unfortunately. Some across different adult age groups, but most of them were older adults. If you think back to the earlier slide that I showed you, that's where we're actually doing pretty well with vaccinations. We have a lot of older adults who have gotten vaccinated. So on the right side, what's telling is that you can see there's actually younger ages impacted. And again, remember what I said earlier, we're seeing a lot of those are unvaccinated, because you can see that in the graph above. So big takeaway, again, is that being vaccinated is definitely an important factor here. Okay, if you go to the next slide. So I know everybody's worn out, but there's a few things we can remember that we do have. If you haven't been vaccinated, please consider it. If you are eligible for a booster, now's the time to get it. I haven't talked about Omicron, but I will hit that a little bit. Mainly, there's some concern about this new variant because of the number of mutations or changes in the virus itself. I think, my take is that we shouldn't panic. We know what works with COVID. One of the things that has been very effective so far is vaccines. I don't think, though we've seen some breakthrough cases, it's not time to give up on them completely. Again, remember that we're trying to prevent severe hospitalizations and deaths. So the biggest risk is if people have not been fully vaccinated, and if they've not had their booster and they're eligible for it, that's really what we want to try to emphasize is people doing that. The other thing to remember is if you haven't had a flu shot this year, it's time to get your flu shot. There's flu circulating, and flu can also be very impactful, especially if you have underlying conditions. So what can you do? You can wear a mask if you're indoors in public settings. You can get tested if you're around a group of people, or if you're traveling or after traveling, even if you've been vaccinated, and of course get vaccinated. Those are the 3 things that we're recommending. Okay, you go to the next slide. We're still offering testing at the health department in the mornings. We're offering vaccines every day, and we're continuing to partner with other organizations on trying to promote different opportunities like testing and vaccines. I know folks are tired. I want to just say there's a few things that I'm watching for myself. One is more treatment options. I think that's another key that could be a game changer for all of us. There is a pill that's been approved by the FDA by Merck. Unfortunately, it's not really widely available. It's a pretty small quantity that was coming to North Carolina. It's about a 30% effectiveness, so still nothing compared to vaccines and prevention, but it is a tool. The other thing is there's an injection by AstraZeneca that's available now. That's also very limited and probably more directed to cancer centers and places where we have real severe immunocompromised patients. And then the third thing we're watching for, of course, is another pill that Pfizer is working on, which seems to have some really promising benefits. So I do think in the future, if you're like me and you're like, oh my gosh, can we get out of this COVID spiral? I think that we have to hang on to the vaccines are our best defense. But beyond that, looking forward, I think some more treatment options will be potentially helpful in the future. Monoclonal antibodies are still available, but they are limited. So I do want to tell people, if you get diagnosed with COVID, you have a concern about your risk, it's time to ask early, because you have to get that within the first 10 days of being diagnosed for it to be helpful. So, and you have to, go to a provider that will provide that for you. And some of our hospital partners have had some challenges in getting that, and it's because the demand is so high. So start early if you're going to get it. I wouldn't say it's not available. I would just say you need to not wait to the last minute to ask for it. Okay, I'll stop there and see what questions you have.
Questions, comments? Do you get any need for the Emerson Black building in the future for a vaccine clinic like you used to do?
I don't right now. I do think, the good news is vaccines are pretty widely available at pharmacies, and we're still offering it. But we'll let you know. We really appreciate all the opportunity you provided us. Being able to use that space really helped us vaccinate more people quicker. So I really appreciate that. I did want to mention too, we are really joining in with the work that's being done on a test to stay program. We know there's a lot of challenges with parents and children with quarantines. So I did want to just comment and say that study is really on the cutting edge of what's informing CDC. You probably heard some announcements that they made over the weekend around really encouraging more kids to be in school and that they can stay safely if they're doing some testing. So obviously it's up to a parent to decide on that, but I just want to say North Carolina is very much engaged in that, and we are too. I'm sitting on a state contact tracing team, and we're really trying to encourage as much flexibility as we can to try to keep our children in school. So I just wanted you to hear me say that, because I know that's another hard thing that families are facing right now.
Other questions? We appreciate all your comments, appreciate you coming today.
Thank you all very much.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Next is the audit presentation, Mr. Scott Wickham and Corbin Stone.
Chairman, Commissioners, thanks for having us here today. I'll kind of go over the first part of our handout. I think Drew is pulling that up now, and then Scott will pick it up at the end. You should all have in front of you a copy of this presentation. You should also have in front of you a copy of the financial report, or the audit report as we call it. It's 124 pages, so we're not going to go through that entire document, but we are available, and our contact information is on the cover of the presentation. If you have any questions as you go over it, please don't hesitate to call us or send us an email. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have. One more page. Thank you. First thing, on page 2 of the audit report, you do have the auditor's opinion. You were issued an unqualified or unmodified opinion, which means we believe the financial statements are materially correct. After that, on page 5, you have the management's discussion and analysis, and that's April's really narrative about the financial statements, kind of put in a, I guess, a user-friendly format, so you can kind of work your way through that. It's a little easier to read than just diving directly into the financial statements. Exhibit 1, which is on page 14 of the financial statements, is on the full accrual basis of accounting, and what that means is we include all assets of the county and all liabilities. So on full accrual accounting, the value of your buildings, your cars, your vehicles, all your fixed assets are included in that, and of course all your long-term liabilities, such as your post-employment benefits, where you offer health insurance for retirees, your pension liabilities, that sort of thing. So full accrual is taking a picture of kind of the entire entity, and theoretically, if you were to go out of business today, what would be your net value once you paid all your bills and sold everything? I will tell you that the value of assets is depreciated value, so it's not necessarily the fair value of those assets. Exhibit 3 is the balance sheet, a term most folks are more used to than the statement of net positions, but that's on the modified accrual basis of accounting. And that's almost a modified cash basis. And really for a government, that's more useful, I think, because it shows you kind of what your immediate needs are and, you know, where your cash balance is, what your short-term receivables are, your short-term assets, what your payables are, excluding your long-term liabilities such as your post-employment benefits. Kind of is a better picture for local governments. Chances are you're not going to sell off your buildings to pay for your pension liabilities. So it's a good measure of your ability to move forward. Exhibit 9 shows a statement of cash flow, really for the landfill fund. Other exhibits that are in the report are on pages 112 to 115. I'm sorry, 112 to 117, and those are opinions under government auditing standards and your compliance with federal grants. Finally, we have the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. That's on 118. It also shows your state awards. These are basically grants that the county has received. And we have schedules of findings and question costs. This is an area where we disclose the findings we had in the audit and, of course, recommendations for improvement. If you'll show them the next slide, just some trend information for you. These are your revenues going back to 2017, coming forward to 21. The important number is highlighted there in blue. We've seen annualized growth on a compounded basis of 5.38%. That's good. Next page, Drew. These are your expenditures going back to 2017 through 2021. You can see in blue there, your operating expenditures have increased at an annualized rate of 1.47%. I always compare that against inflation. So if inflation has been 2% and our expenditures are growing at less than inflation, I think we're doing pretty good. Debt service has increased. You really can't control that, but so much when you enter into an agreement, when you finance something, that's going to be paid over time. And the terms of those are going to dictate the increases and decreases. Total expenditures have been growing at 1.68%. That includes debt service over this 5-year look-back period. Again, that's compounded, on a compounded basis. Ending fund balance has grown. Since 2017, the ending fund balance was $3.9 million. In 2021, ending fund balance was 5.7, or just under 5.7. So 9.68% growth in fund balance compounded on an annual basis over that time frame. So that's pretty good. That's really what we want to see. It's good that your revenues are going up, but more importantly, your expenditures are being held in check, and you're controlling those very well. Again, anytime I see that less than 2% growth in expenditures, I'm pretty excited. That's what accountants like to see. Next tab, we're just showing you where your revenues come from on this next page. Obviously, taxes are going to be the bulk of your revenues at $10.7 million, and it just gives you an idea of the sources of income. Next page, we just show you your general fund expenditures, how much you're spending on general government administration, public safety, and so forth. Really, your expenditures by function. Finally, and I think this is the last slide that I will go over, we're showing you your review of county reserves. So that first line that's highlighted up there, ending fund balance as a percentage of expenditures, stood at 37%. Ending cash balance as a percentage of expenditures stood at 32%. Unassigned fund balance, you can see that's been growing at an annualized rate of 17%. Unassigned fund balance as a percentage of expenditures, the growth there as well. And then ultimately available fund balance at the end of the year. And that very bottom highlighted number is really what's important. The available fund balance as a percentage of expenditures end of the year at 28%. You can see that's the highest it's been over this 5-year look-back period. The local government commission states that the minimum there should be 20%, so you're above their minimum. For comparable counties, similar counties are averaging 39%. So you're below that of your peers, but you're above the minimum. And frankly, headed in the right direction. I'll tell you what, I'll stop there and see if there are any questions about those slides before I hand it over to Scott.
Any questions?
He's going to talk a little bit about the findings and recommendations.
Again, thanks for having us. I just want to reiterate that we were really impressed with the improvement of the financial position of the county in the last few years. It's been remarkable, so I want to do that. But also, as part of the audit, we're required to review certain things and certain compliance items, and we did have a few items here that I wanted to discuss with you all. One finding that we first noted was we were required to propose material adjustments. That is a common finding for a smaller locality. I know April was our first full year, I think, in that position. So learning to get the adjustments in the books in an accurate fashion was a result of that finding. The second one, lacking segregation of duties. As part of providing the finding, we provided some recommendations for improvement. And I know that some of that's already been taking place with additional review of the bank statements and other checks and balances have been in place. So that's good to see. And then the third one kind of went hand in hand with it, timely bank reconciliations. You know, the bank reconciliation is the ultimate control to make sure that everything is accurate in your books. And over a period of time that they got behind, and we're hoping that those get caught up here soon. So a few other smaller items. The GL maintenance, fund integrity, just a matter of learning how the actual accounting system works. So as April has worked through that finance position side, she's learned much better how those funds operate and account in the system. A few other recommendations there, the budget compliance. The LGC has a lot of very strict rules on how your appropriations are supposed to be handled and accounted for in the system. As we review the actual appropriations you all approved, a few of them weren't actually posted in the system accurately. Again, as she learned the system, I think those have been corrected going forward. So Overall, we had several recommendations we provided, but each recommendation that we had was met with a sincere intent to improve. So we're really happy to see that, and I think that things have improved a lot since we were here just a few months ago. So overall, feel happy with the direction that the controls are going. On the next page, a new requirement from the LGC is that you all respond to these items in a written requirement, and there's instructions here on how to do that. I think the state does require that within 60 days. So if you have any questions on any of this, we're happy to help on how that goes. Upcoming standards. We were talking with Mr. Carter earlier about the number of standards that have been issued. They're coming at us fast now, actually, because when COVID first hit, they delayed several of them a few years, and now we have 4 that are going into play in this fiscal year you're currently in. The biggest one would be leases for a lot of localities. We know you all do not have a whole lot of leases, but you do have several leases that would be financially changed with this calculation. We're working on a template to provide the finance to help get that ready for the next audit. So with leases, an operating lease, essentially if you're renting a long-term building, that liability has been disclosed in the notes of the financial statements and not in the financial statements themselves other than the expense. Now will be a liability offset by a deferred outflow right to use. So a lot of accounting changes for not a whole lot of net impact at the bottom line, but that is going into effect this year. And a few other changes could impact the note disclosures and other items.
By way of just starting, I remember 14. I'm not that old. So we're close to GASB 100 now. So the Government Accounting Standards Board has been very active. Quite a bit in the terms of studying accounting. To deal with.
Yeah, so overall, the audit process, this was our first audit with you all. A first-year audit can always be very challenging as we're required to build certain audit documentation and gather all the outstanding agreements and those type of items, and your staff was fantastic at providing all that, very helpful. So the process went really well, and we're really impressed with the improvement in fund balance you all have. So we're excited with the future financially.
So you're looking out over the horizon. We just don't know what the economy is going to look like post-COVID. The liquidity into. Don't know that's all going to play out. And finding. So that you're in a position.
Are there any questions?
Questions, comments? Very good audit report, gentlemen. We
you all.
appreciate it.
Our contact's on the front of that handout. If you all have questions at any point, feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Financial update. Finance Officer, Ms. April Ham.
I was kidding the county manager whether I had to do this report today if the audit wasn't report enough, so I'm still standing here.
You're here.
Okay, our monthly financial update, year-to-date revenue, $12,141,855.52. That represents 69% of the total revenue budget for the year. Expenditures, $8,044,836.80. That represents about 46% of our expenditure budget. And of course, the approved budget was $17,611,637. And we're about 45.8% into that budget, time-wise. The bank balance as of today, $13,655,055.44. Bank balance last year, when I presented this report to the board, was $9,154,704. And then I have the bank balance from the previous year also for comparison. So the net financials, To date, $4,097,018.72 currently. Can I answer any questions about the financials? The second sheet is actually a sales tax revenue update for the board. The top portion of it, and this is actually July through October. This is one of those that stays behind because they have to collect the tax and then a period of reconciliation and then it's posted. Year to date, $374,706.83. Year to date last year at this time, $445,966.86. So you can see our sales tax numbers are going down just a little bit. That's a little bit over $70,000 in difference. Any questions?
Questions? Very good report, thank you.
Thank you.
Facilities update, Mr. David Spicer, Public Works Director.
Mr. Chairman, Board, thank you for this opportunity. First off, we will be looking at just a few things here on this. As far as the courthouse is concerned, we do have the estimate, and as the Board requested, went back to the contractor and did talk with them about the estimate for the repairs to be made as far as water damage was concerned inside the courthouse. So Caldwell Construction had the lowest quote at $27,829.48. I did talk to Jason, and Jason said that he had cut that just about to bare minimum to try to get the job. So as you know, that was almost $10,000 cheaper than the other bid, which was $37,736.13. So I guess I would like to have permission, I guess, from the board to proceed with that in getting the repairs finished at the courthouse.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve, here a second.
Second.
Got a motion, a second, any further discussion? Not all in favor? 3-0.
Thank you. So other than that, as far as the courthouse is concerned, everything seems to be going along pretty good. The new courthouse is up and running, and of course we had that dedication, and we'll go over that, but those things are pretty well in order right now. Our transfer facility, we have recycling is up and going. There is still a little bit of confusion, and I know that that's a learning curve for the public because this is something that we hadn't done in a little while, and when we re-implemented this, it's different than it was before. But there is signage. We have signs up, and we have painted arrows on the floor and instructions as to where things go, and we have had a professional recording done that plays continuously. It's on a cycle, so it explains what we take, what we don't take, and where it goes. So that recording has been done. So just remind everyone that recycling is up and going. We hadn't gotten hardly as much stuff as we had first anticipated, but we almost have a dumpster full. So the dumpster holds between 6 and 7 tons usually as far as the compaction is concerned. So there is quite a bit that has come into the county, and we do already have one cardboard dumpster full. So we're working on the second one there. So 90 South Main, of course, that's an ongoing project. As y'all know, those things will be covered a little bit later, some of them, but that's an ongoing project. A plan is in place, so we're working on that. And then finally, our animal control, and we've had 1 welfare check, 3 dog calls this time, 1 horse, 1 pig call, and 2 live traps set. So, and I'll go over some of that in my yearly report, but for the most part, that's going along pretty good. We've done very well with that, I think. So at this time, I'll entertain any questions that you might have.
What's the biggest problem with the recycling? Like, what are people not doing that they need to change?
Putting stuff in the hopper itself that does not belong. Of course, things go in there that doesn't belong. We're allowed so much, but our staff have to get down in there and pull those things out. I think there was a wheelbarrow tub and a hard hat and some stuff that just doesn't belong in there. And like I said, I know it's a learning curve because of how it's done now versus what it was before, but those things, and make sure that it's not bagged, it's clean, it's in good shape. I mean, it's still garbage, even though it's recyclables. It's still garbage. And our goal ultimately is a reduction of waste that goes into the landfill. So we're doing that, and that's happening. And thanks to our county people, that's going on. So, but a lot of those things is unnecessary stuff or stuff that can't or not allowed in there. Sometimes glass gets in there and we don't take the glass. But again, there is a certain amount that is allowed, but before they refuse the load. And when they refuse the load, then we're defeating the purpose.
Any other questions, comments? Sir? Yes, sir.
Just two other items, David, if you would. One is an update on the air handling equipment at the BDC, and the second one is talking about the cleaning out of the basement of the BDC and the storage area here for dispatch.
Buildings, heating, and air, they would honor the quoted price. So they're supposed to be coming. They have not gotten there yet to correct those items. One being the air conditioning or the cooling that goes into the equipment room there where all of the data equipment is stored. That needs to be addressed. And also the cooling of the Historical Society's room there, which right now we're not using air conditioning, but the heat needs to be fixed because they felt like it was a damper that was closed and one of those automatic dampers, and that's hooked to the fire alarm system. We had a little trouble with it a little while back, which has since been corrected, but we think maybe one of the dampers is closed, and he said he could take care of that, but that has not been done yet. The cleaning out of the basement, the staff here has been very good to work with in identifying things that they have. We have already cleaned out probably 2/3 of the basement there. The cages for relocating stored materials has been started. We've got 3 of the cages built. So those are in place, and we'll be moving the shelving and also the materials there that have to be stored and secured. Those will be moved in there to the basement in a short period of time. The 13th day of January is when the shredders is coming. So we have quite a bit of stuff that will be shredded. So as we move the shredded stuff out, we're going to move the other stuff that we're going to keep and move all that out and have that completely cleaned out shortly after that.
The comments, questions? Dave, we appreciate you. Good report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, County Department year-end updates. First up is North Carolina Extension Service. Amy Lucas.
And
Morning.
thank you all for having us. So first off, I just want to start by giving a couple updates. Your extension office here at the Allegheny Center is composed of 6 of us. 3 of us are full-time, 3 are shared with other counties. So that includes myself, Erin Ray Tompkins, who is our agriculture agent, and then Michelle Ham is our full-time administrative support staff, and I'm your extension director and your 4-H agent. Then we also have Carmen Long, who's shared with Surrey County, and she's our family consumer science director. And then we also have Jill Cockram, who does local foods and our farmers market, and then Brad Edwards, who is unfortunately shared with too many people and is all over the place, and is in Ashe and Watauga and sometimes Yancey County, and we only have 12% of Brad, but we do have a wonderful staff here at the Allegheny Center. 2021 was an odd year for us because of COVID. We were restricted to doing face-to-face programming, which we are an education component of NC State University. But once we were able to get open back up, we had 2,237 face-to-face contacts in 20 and 21. 47,000 digital contacts, because that's kind of where we pushed to when we weren't able to do face-to-face programming. We did do some news articles, Facebook posts, social media, and then we also do a radio program. So these are just a couple of the highlights. One thing I will say that is not in your report is that during those months of January to April, we really worked hard with Appalachian District Health, as well as the Migrant Farm Worker Outreach Program, to deliver PPE to those farm workers. So that's one thing that you're not seeing in this report, but I did want to bring that awareness to you all. One important thing that we do, farm safety. We see too many accidents. We see too many ATVs. We see too many farm tractors. So farm safety is something we've been working on for about 30 years in the county. One thing we did this past year was we actually put together a video and delivered that actually to NC State University. We did a campus to county connection. So that was one thing that we focused on a little bit earlier on, and so you have a link to that video if you would like to go visit it. But we do start with 2nd graders, we do 4th graders, we do our high school students, and we also do adult farm safety education. So that's something that we're very proud of. Carmen does a lot with nutrition, as you know. She focuses on the Storytime Cooks, which she does a radio program with the Allegheny County Public Library each week. We did have some attendees actually get to go from 4-H to National Congress in Atlanta, Georgia this year, and that was a face-to-face event. It was canceled last year, so we were super proud of her getting to go do that, and that was Colleen Castle here in Allegheny County. Erin Ray works really hard with our livestock and our ag programs and our dairy showmanship. So we had approximately, I think he said, we had 19 total youth involved, and half of those were out of Allegheny County. So Allegheny County kids are going to not only district events, state events, and also to national showmanship events. So super proud of those kids and the accomplishments they have. Another big thing, camp. We see the push for camp. And why do we send our kids to camp? We send our kids to camp to make them better citizens for our communities. And you say, camp can't do that. Camp does that. It teaches you communication. It teaches you cooperation. It teaches you those skills that you really need. So we really pride ourselves on sending kids to camp, residential camp, every year. This past year we sent 9. We're hoping to send approximately 15 to camp this year. So we're going to wait and see, but camp is a big thing that we do. Typically we attend Betsy Jeff Penn 4-H camp in Reedsville. However, there are 3 camps in North Carolina that we do send kids to, and we've sent kids to every single camp in North Carolina. So that's a big part of what we focus on in 4-H. Our farmers market, which is Jill Cockram, super proud of what she's done with the farmers market this past year. I hope you all were able to go out, and I saw many of you over there. We had 60 vendors throughout the season this year. That's triple what we typically have. So she has really worked hard to market local foods and what our producers are accomplishing. She's working with them on marketing plans. She's working them on production. She's working with them on diversification. And so she is really doing a phenomenal job, I think, with the farmers market and getting people out and educating them on local foods and why it's important to do local foods rather than just rely on your farmers market or just rely on the grocery store. We need to really look at those local foods. A couple of other things I just want to highlight quickly. The wool pool. Aaron Ray's been working with a district, actually cross-state wool pool event to where they have done some new programming and actually was able to increase the production standards from 5 cents per pound on that wool to where he got 40 cents per pound for our folks. Wool, if you don't know, is very cheap. And the producers were like, why am I going to sell it? I'm not getting anything out of it. So he was able to really boost that up. They got some new equipment. They're working on a multi-state event. And I think actually included Tennessee. Actually, it's Kentucky, Virginia, and North Carolina. So super proud of what that increase has done over the last year. And then the last thing would be summer fun. We were closed down up until about April, May. We weren't sure if we were going to get to do our summer fun programming in person. Thankfully, we were. So June, July, August, we had our kids back on hand going to do some really good programming. Brought in a lot of our partners. Soil and Water was one of our big partners that we work with, the Forest Service, the Allegheny County Beekeepers, our fire departments, and then we were able to travel as well. So super proud of what our summer programming events did. So that's kind of a overview in a nutshell, super fast, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions, comments? Just like to comment on a good job y'all doing. It's 4-H is a good program in itself, and
Thank you.
y'all do a super good job.
We have a great staff. I have to really brag on our staff, and they're doing great things. So, do
Talking about 4-H camp, I went way back in the day.
you remember which camp you went to?
Oh, yeah. Mania,
Oh, did you go to,
Oh, yeah.
to the Eastern Center?
Francis Wagner.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, it makes lifelong impacts. Camp really does make a lifelong. I've had so many parents say my kid changed after I sent them to camp. I really do believe in it.
Betsy Jeff Penn was just in the process of opening by the time I,
Right? It's wonderful.
yeah.
They're wonderful. So, and they do family days and educational events, so even if you're not ready to send, because I know little kids are hard to send to camp. My 9-year-old doesn't, she's a little nervous about camp, but you can go for the day and get some of those same experiences. So I do highly recommend going for the day. Yeah.
appreciate you.
Thank you all so
Thank you.
much.
Good job with the fair, too.
Oh, yep. I do have to say, that's not really extension. We are absolutely a partner, but your Ag Advisory Board, they're the ones that really did so great with the fair.
You guys helped out.
We did. We were there, and we were very proud of it, too, and we're glad to see it back. We've missed it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Elections report, Sherry Dawson. Morning.
Don't have quite as much to report on as Amy. In 2021, we started out with 7,650 registered voters with all the impact from the 2020 new move-ins and stuff. And by half of the year, we had gained 102 more by the 1st of July. But in overall, by the time we got to this past Saturday, we have a loss of 79 registered voters. We done our list maintenance in January and in July that we do every year, which takes out inactive voters. They have a chance to 30 days to respond, so if they've not responded, they get removed. Deaths and those that need to be removed. We had a wellness check from the state. We had one member of the state board, and then our SST, our safety and security technician that is assigned to our district. They came and done our wellness check. We passed with flying colors. We had 19 pages of questions to answer and forms to show them and all kinds of materials that they required. The state released 2014 and 2016 records, so we had 10 plus boxes of shredding to do. That took up quite a bit of our time. And I'm a little funny about election stuff, so we shredded it ourselves. And then I knew it was done. We also transitioned in August to a cloud-based server through the state They regulate it. We got rid of the physical server. We have a lot more security with doing it this way. It sounds like it wouldn't be because it's in the cloud, but we have, every time we sign into a program, we have to have an authorization code to get in that program. So they're really increasing the security aspects. And we also, the municipal election went great. We had a low turnout. We only had 14% turnout for the municipal, but everything run well, and it's already been billed and the reimbursement received. And then also, I guess the biggest update is candidate filing is stopped until they have set a deadline for January the 11th. But the state also said this past Wednesday that they expect it to go to higher courts after the 11th. So we are waiting. Hurrying up and waiting.
Yeah.
But we've already done the mass geocode changes for the street addresses, for the jurisdictional changes, but they may have to be reversed. Any questions?
Questions, comments? Thank you, Sherry. We appreciate it. Next is Emergency Medical Services, Ms. Linda Edwards. Morning.
Just a brief overview of what we've done in the past year. As of this morning, when I left the building, we had 1,899 EMS responses this year, and actually I think they've done one more since I got here, so we're at 1,900. This is not the busiest year we've had. Last year, in 2020, we did 2,003. And just for a comparison, in 2019, the number was 1,766. So the call volume is up considerably. 36% of our calls and transports are to out-of-town facilities. This includes transports from the local hospital to other facilities, and also includes when our medics make the decision that a patient needs to be at a different level of care or receive a higher level of care that can be done locally. This does not include the out-of-town transports to nursing facilities after hospital discharge, or trips to hospice homes, that type of thing. And in those numbers, it's easy to say 36%, but when you're looking at the majority of those transports being to Winston, your usage as far as time-wise is pretty involved with those out-of-counties. Our numbers in general have grown, but the out-of-counties have stayed roughly 36 to 38% over the last 4 years. Staffing is still an issue for us. We have one vacant position. We have a few leads on getting that filled, and hopefully we will, but we've had a real great part-time staff, and some of our full-time folks volunteering to come in and work extra hours to keep us covered for the county. With the support from the county manager and yourselves, we were able to obtain the PAPR devices, which has helped keep our staff safe during these difficult times and has done a great job, and we're greatly appreciated. And also the Lucas devices that we've used several times since we obtained those. Questions?
Any questions, comments? Mr. John?
I have a couple. What impact has the increase in fuel had on your budget?
Well, we're only halfway through the budget year, so I guess that's more to be determined when we see what happens after the first of the year, but it has been up considerably. It probably affects our fuel budget a couple of $100 a month.
So we can anticipate a request for additional funds in the future?
Possibly.
What about the new extended care facility? Do you feel that it's going to have an impact?
Well, I have actually talked to the shift supervisors, and we get sort of a mix. It will be impacting because more people, of course, increases the possibility of having to do transports. But the facility itself, with part of it being independent living, I don't foresee that it's really going to change the numbers a lot, because you're still going to face the same thing if people had moved here and lived in a home independently. So I don't think that's going to be a big impact.
Have you had any conversations with them in this regards?
No. No, we had talked to them about coming out and looking at the facility to entrance and exit and how to best access their buildings, but no, there's been no conversation.
Just whenever I went through the other day on their open house, they mentioned that they were also going to do hospice, respite care. I'm surprised that it's not going to have an impact or no liaison been made between. Thank you. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate the job you folks do over there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Finance Officer, Human Resource, Ms. April Ham.
Morning again. In the past year, of course, we just had one of the big things that was presented to the board was the audit for fiscal year 21. The fiscal year 20 audit was actually not presented to the board until on up in calendar year 21. So we turned right around. We signed a new contract with auditors, and they were on site in June, starting the audit for the fiscal year 21 that was just presented to you. One of our other big projects in the finance office is, of course, the budget. We're getting ready to start that. Everything is due February the 11th for the upcoming budget process. Last year it was due February the 19th. We worked through the end of May, had the public hearing to the commissioners, and had everything approved on June the 7th of 2021 for the current year budget. We process AP every other week, and on the opposite week we process payroll. Payroll is usually around anywhere between 140 and 160 employees. Twice a year we have holiday pay that goes out to certain departments like EMS, law enforcement, jail, and the transfer facility. That's added to that payroll process in June and December. And then we add the longevity in July to the payroll process. We have several different funds to take care of. Corbin and Scott kind of talked about the funds, and that's becoming more and more. We're going to have more separate funds to take care of. Right now, two of the bigger ones are transportation and the transfer facility. That's an enterprise fund. Right now we have American Rescue Plan funds. We closed out the CARES fund from last year. We have Earthquake Fund, PSAP, E911 fund. So, and that's going to continue to increase. The Fire Tax Fund is also in there too. We added an IT person this year. Very proud of that. That's something that the department heads have been asking for several years, so we're very glad to have Chris on board. As far as staff in the finance office, we have replaced 2 full-time staff members. Robin Hamilton is our assistant finance officer, and Doug Smith is the payroll and accounting specialist. We're in the process of replacing the shared position, the tax, tag, and finance office position. That person should be on board with us around the first week of January. Rita and I have worked closely, cross-training with that position, and it has been an asset to both of us, especially going through the pandemic and any type of quarantine situations in any office. It's very nice to have a person that is a backup in 3 or 4 separate areas. So that position has worked out well. On the HR side of it, we've had 26 new hires since January the 1st. We've done all the pre-employment screenings, all the new hire paperwork. New hire paperwork is federal and state mandates, the taxes, getting all the insurance set up for all these folks. We take care of the insurance benefit management, paying all those bills each month. I also work real close with the InChip board. Actually, Allegheny County has a spot on that board, and I represent the county on that board with North Carolina Insurance Pool. We had a reduction in our dental insurance for most employees. There was one category in the dental insurance changing from Humana to Delta that the cost went up just minimal. And I did speak with some employees about that, but overall we did decrease that for the employees, the cost. We put performance evaluations into place this year. We've gone through that process and we will continue to tweak that and go forward with that. We've had 4 retirees this year that we've worked with. One currently that will be retiring at the end of this month. We take multiple phone calls about employment verifications daily. That's pretty common in our office. And we do manage the open enrollment in the springtime. Have all of our reps come to this room actually, and the employees can come in and sit down with them, talk about retirement plans, talk about insurance, whatever they need to talk to our reps about. And then we also handle salary management and job descriptions on the HR side of the office. So can I answer any questions?
All been busy.
We've been busy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I make one comment?
Yes, sir.
And April was talking about the shared position. One thing that also provides as we move forward, if you go back and look at your audit, finding number 2 was segregation of duties. With this position, that also allows for that finding to basically resolve itself because we now have the staffing and the duties assigned appropriately. So that is also a plus to having that position as well.
Thank you. Next, GIS, Mary Rector. Morning.
Okay, for the last year for the GIS department, we have actually handled and processed 1,302 deeds, combinations, and transfers. Of those, 1,050 were transfers, 100 were combinations, 23 were transfer combinations, and 159 were splits. We have actually started a project putting plat references, so hopefully in the near future we will have plats linked with our deeds like we have online right now. I have assigned 166 addresses. 27 of those were readdresses. 139 of those were new addresses. A lot of those is up due to the RV parks, tiny homes, and you're getting a lot of campers that are getting telephone service and internet service, and they have to have a 911 address. We have made 80 road signs this year, which is significantly down from last year, which we had 114, and the year before was 146, so that's a good improvement. We had 3 new roads this year. On the 911 side, I have processed 9,866 phone records. That's making sure that the ESNs and everything is going to the correct place. A lot of that is from our changeover with the EZNet for dispatch. We did have a lot of errors with ranges and ESNs, so we had to get that fixed. We had 81 MSAG changes. We had 31 address corrections. There has been 9,798 911 calls come into our dispatch center. Of those, 6,087 have come in on our trunk lines, and 3,711 have come in on our admin lines. In the last couple of months, I've worked with Miss April, and we've got the 911 budget finalized, so that's a plus. And I've also been working to help Evelyn to get the text to 911 up and active. So, but that's pretty much what we've been doing.
Any questions, comments?
Well, the only comment I have, Mr. Chairman, is basically 1/3 of 911 calls are coming in through the admin line.
Yes.
What the people of Allegheny County don't realize is that we receive money through the 911 funds based on the number of 911 calls that we receive.
Yes, and when we say the admin line, it is not the 4455.
Right. When you go to that admin line, that call is not counted. So we get to tax you more so that we can support 911. So please, if it's a 911 call, dial 911.
Or 5676 or 5677.
Yeah. Stay away from 4455. Do not call that one. We don't get counted, we don't get money for it. And I'm guilty with a chimney fire.
More comments, Mary? We appreciate your job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Information Technology, Mr. Chris Miller.
Morning. Since I was hired in November, I've been very busy. I've been building the IT department from scratch. I appreciate the funding for that. I've been learning what's here. I learn more every day as I go about my business, and as things come up, I learn more about what's here. I completed an IT inventory for the admin building, and I'm working on the inventories for the other county facilities. I have access to update, and I've been updating and redesigning the county website as well as the elections website. I was tasked to get quotes on a new email vendor, and I had got through IdeaCom a quote that Michael and I have gone through for email and Office that we had not had before. I'm also working with IdeaCom on the new phone project. I replaced computers at the transfer station, 3 in the tax office. Lisa's got 3 on order. I'll be replacing up there. I'm working with Dell for quotes on a new server for DSS and computers. I'm working with CDW for a new quote for the tax office server. I completed local agency security officer certification for the sheriff's office to handle their stuff. And of course, I'm providing IT support as needed in the county.
Questions, comments?
Only comment I have is, you're going to be busy, young man. Thank you. You're a welcome addition and long needed.
You echo the same sentiments. Appreciate your work you're doing, and thank you for it all. Next up, plan inspections, Mr. Travis Dalton.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Starting out, it's getting busier as we go on still. For the new houses, we had 86 permitted this year so far, which is up from 50 from last year. Of those, 21 are the tiny home, and 15 are in the 1,000 to 1,500 square foot range, which was only 6 of each last year. And then of the 86, 7 of those permits were earthquake damage that we couldn't account for. Additions and remodels are up from 37 to 54. Of those, we had 8, which were related with the earthquake. Garages, we had 23 permitted this year and 29 last year, so it's down a little in the garage. Commercial permits was up to 23 from 10, but they were a lot smaller in scale this time than the 10 we had last year. Camper services were down this year to 25 from 39 in the previous year. And then on the planning board side, plats, which we review all those, is up to 152 from 121 from the previous year. Planning board meetings, public hearings, we had 3, and in the previous year we had 1. And so far we've took in right at 100,000 in permit fees for this year. It's down from last year due to permit fees.
Questions, comments?
Busy.
Been busy. We appreciate it. Thank you. Public Transportation, Miss Tiffany Bowyer.
Morning.
Morning.
We are continuing to provide Allegheny County with medical, including Medicaid and VA, elderly and disabled, rural general public, and agency transportation in and out of the county. We also do in-town county employment transportation, and that's just for $2 each way. This year, we have provided 9,794 trips, with 50% of those being medical. We have spent 6,976 hours on the road. That's equal to 291 days. We've traveled 173,798 miles with no accidents. We have applied and been awarded for 5 grants and programs. This allows us to provide reduced fare transportation, and it also helps to cover some of our full-time salaries, fringe benefit, drug and alcohol. And also we have gotten funds to replace 2 of our high-top conversion vans. We completed a system safety review in March. We updated that policy and closed that review in May. And we have also successfully transitioned part of our Medicaid to managed care, and that includes getting approved and contracted with the 2 brokers for our region. So, any questions?
Questions, comments?
The question I have, when do you anticipate receipt for the 2 vehicles?
I checked on that at the 1st of December. The 2 of the conversion vans that we ordered for last year, hopefully in January. The minivan, they don't know. And the ones for this year, it's hard telling.
We appreciate the job you guys do. Y'all provide a mighty necessary service over there for the people. We thank you. Public Works, Mr. David Spicer.
Thanks once again, Mr. Chairman and Board. This has been a very busy year as far as this is concerned. As most people know, the earthquake damage has been quite extensive for the county. The first thing is the courthouse. The earthquake damage was fixed there. All that was completed, is in good shape now. Quite a bit of money spent there. The new courthouse was involved in some of that. The annex building, of course, there we had the dedication, and that was dedicated to Judge Dalton, and very well deserved there. That was a very nice day that took place this time around, and very glad to have been a part of that. Our Veterans Park, there's been some improvements done there. Cole had taken care of the track and got it in better shape. And then we've got the new display that's going in, hasn't been completed yet. That is going to house the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, and the Bill of Rights. So we've worked closely with those folks from the freedom people that are doing that for us. And again, just so that the county people know, that's not costing us anything. Except just a little bit of time to spend down there helping them, and that's been very minimal. Our transfer facility, we've made some improvements at the transfer facility there. The 3 employees that work there full-time at the transfer facility have really dedicated themselves in making that facility improved as far as looks and operation. So with that, we've had our scrap tire disposal that we've applied for a grant again this time. I applied for $10,583.40. Last year we applied for about that same amount. We didn't get anywhere close to that, but any money that we receive back from that is an improvement. So I can't get it if I don't request it. Our recycling, we did get a grant for that, of course. We have received a check for $27,000 so far for that. That's 90% of the grant. Once my final report goes in, and that which will be somewhere between the 1st of January and the end of February, we'll get the other 10%, which would be $3,000 that would come back to the county. I mentioned in the recycling there, Justin Hall, him and his wife are the ones that made that recording. So if you get a chance, go by and listen to that. It's really interesting and really helps us as far as the ability that we have to do that. Our loader had been doing good. Of course, this morning it wouldn't start, so it's up and going now. I guess it just froze. Too cold for it.
You have to help it a little bit.
Yeah, we had to help it a little bit. So we've got that. That loader it's up and going right now. So can't do much complaining. But
That's all you're going to say about
that's
it?
about all I'm going to say. Yeah. We have in our earthquake damage. The state has been reimbursing us for some of the materials that's coming in. To date, just in this quarter, just in this last quarter, there's been 444,900 pounds brought in just this quarter, which brings us to a yearly total of 1,315,060 pounds that has been brought to the facility, and that's the earthquake damage that's counted. That's not counting anything that went into beneficial field or scrap. So we continually work towards that. Some days those guys, we went from averaging about 100,000 pounds a day to almost 200,000 pounds a day in trash leaving the county. Daymark building, this time we had the water damage, and that's been fixed and completed, and Daymark is occupying that building. So we're still working with them to fix any things that needs to be adjusted on that. But that's working out really well. The earthquake damage was fixed at the COA, which the walls and all had been repaired. The admin building, most of the earthquake damage here at the admin building is completed. We're still waiting on flooring. It's been a problem in getting flooring materials thus far, but we are anticipating that coming up really soon, hopefully. But shortly after the first of the year, we should hopefully have that. I can't promise, but we'll try our best to have those floors fixed. The earthquake damage was fixed at the Sheriff's Department. Of course, you know, the LP tanks was in disrepair there, but that pad has been since fixed very well and taken care of. 90 South Main, that's a fix in progress. So we're still working towards that. Out at the Fairgrounds, the new sign was installed, and I'm sure Cole may have a little more insight on that, but we have the new sign at the Fairgrounds. Everything so far we have been able to repair. There is some ongoing things and some new things that we wish to do out there at the Fairgrounds, so we're going to be working on that. And then we come to animal control. We are building that animal control department back up. We've got 3 officers now that have had training. With those, of those 3 officers, 2 have been qualified to use the shotgun and rifle, and that was done in cooperation with the Sheriff's Department in their training sessions and qualifying for them. So 5 of us now are working in that area, trying to keep that going, and have been fully vaccinated. So we've had our rabies shots and all of the tetanus and hepatitis B and all those shots that's required and necessary for that. So we have, and we started reporting this to the board 3 months ago, and in that 3-month period we've had 5 dog bites, 2 dog attacks on dog. We've had 1 that is vicious, 1 that was a nuisance, and 10 welfare checks, and that's just on dogs. We had 16 dogs at large and or stray. We had 15 cats that were at large and or stray. We've had 1 horse welfare check, which consisted of 20 horses, and those horses have been taken care of. The owner was waiting on a delivery of feed, and we found that the complaint was unfounded there, and he is taking care of those animals. We had 6 stray pigs. So those pigs was collected, and they became wards of the county, and we've posted it on the website, and we took sealed bids on that. Those pigs no longer belong to the county, but it's been a very interesting year, to say the least. So if there are any questions, I'll entertain those now.
No monkeys?
Well, we did have a case of a monkey, and we have since, I think, resolved that, and everything's good with that one. So, yeah.
Questions, comments? Dave?
I was hoping we was going to have a community barbecue there for a bit.
Thank you, David. Decoration, Mr. Cole Edwards.
out by Good.
First, just let me start by saying I've only been in this position for 6 months. And when I first started, that's when COVID was lifted. So anything I did after that made me look really good. And I can't take credit for anything that I've done solely. It's a team effort, whether it's maintenance department, who we work really closely with, volunteers, and even county staff as well. Start with the fairgrounds. As David had mentioned, there's a lot of maintenance items that have been addressed. There's a lot more that need to be addressed. We'll continue working on that as well. New sign is in place. We have somewhat learned how to program that thing. That too is a work in progress. We did form steering committee to try to help guide the fairgrounds in the right direction, and I think that's going really well. We've updated the rental agreement, the fee structure, rules, etc., in that committee. Events that we had at the fairgrounds, 4-H and Extension Office had a number of events there, as well as the county library. We had the Mudsling, Sparta Baptist Camp meeting, Fiber Fest, Demolition Derby, Fair. Ash Alleghany Home Builders held a couple classes out there. Alleghany Arts and Crafts Christmas Show. Just a couple weeks ago, they actually said that that was their best one ever, and don't get a lot of compliments my way, but they actually said that the facility was the best shape it's ever been in since they've been doing it there. Alleghany Partnership for Children did their Christmas outreach. They said that it was better than in years past. They were able to provide gifts for over 200 kids for that event and had gifts left over to carry to next year. Sports, we were able to get those back up and running with the restrictions lifted. Soccer, we had around 130 kids with a total of 13 teams. Basketball, we just finished registration for that, and it's going to start up in January. We're looking at around 140 kids with 13 teams with that as well. Disc golf course, we have been working on that the past couple of months. We are very close. Hopefully the first week of January we'll have it completed and opened. We, as David had mentioned, we repaired the track at Veterans Park. Working on building a relationship with the Allegheny Sparta Trails Association to try to work on some future projects with them, as well as building a relationship with the Wellness Center to work on some future programs with them as well. And last but certainly not least, we hired Recreation Maintenance and Service Coordinator Noah Triplett. And he has proved himself valuable, and I'm glad to have him on board. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right, based on the information, I'm showing 4 events that you provided this morning, excuse me. 4 events that generated $38,500, and that's grandstand events.
Specifically grandstand.
Specifically grandstand. You rented 3 campsites to tourists. Now, whenever I spoke with the chamber, they said that they weren't aware of the campsites. Have you got a working relationship with this Fairgrounds Steering Committee to where we can get it out there that we've got campsites?
That is on our agenda. We're just taking one step at a time. We just completed the rental agreement, and the last discussion that we had was on much needed maintenance items there, and so that is on the radar moving forward.
Okay. Well, as events come up out there, what are you looking at as far as flow for advertisement? Are you, as an example, Mr. Brown had his mudsling, brought in 1,500 people that he sold tickets to. If he is renting that, are you making them aware that that the TDA is available in the chamber for advertisement monies?
Well, and that will be part of it going forward, and that was, I think, one of the important reasons of bringing TDA and the chamber on board to the steering committee, was to have their involvement with that.
I would agree with you, but we are now in December, almost January of 2022. That was on August the 8th, if my notes are correct. So the one big asset that this county has is that fairgrounds. It is available out there for events. We've got campgrounds. We've got stable amenities that we can utilize. But if we don't get that word out there, no one knows unless they drive by and have a flat tire pull in to change it. So
No, I agree with that. And
hopefully we can start that Fairgrounds Steering Committee can get us a document ready so that we can work together instead of apart.
and I'll agree with that, and I'll take the brunt of that. I mean, being just 6 months in this position, I don't know what I don't know, and I'm learning as I go, and so that'll improve.
And that's what I look forward to, because as time goes on, you realize these things whenever they're brought up, and if you take action on them and learn from it, you'll be a heck of a lot better off this time next year than you started out whenever you started out.
Sure hope so.
A constant improvement is what we're looking for, and I think it will happen. Thank you very much. That's all the questions, Mr. Chair.
I realize you came on near the middle of summer, but I think I can speak for everyone when they say they'll be glad that you've already gotten soccer up and going, you've got basketball coming, so hopefully, some baseball programming next year, and
Chairman?
I know that the kids will really benefit a lot from that, so glad to have you on board.
Yeah, I'll echo the same thing. Appreciate the job you're doing. You got a lot of things, trying to put together a lot of things in a lot of areas, and we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's 12 o'clock straight up, and we're a long ways from the finish line. Call recess for 1 hour. Have lunch. Back here at 1.
All right.
There.